Well, what can I say about Castlevania? For more than 30 years, Konami has been telling the tale of good versus evil. For you see, every 100 years, evil rises in the form of Count Dracula, and they often say that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And fortunately, the Belmont family are very good men, and really badass too. What makes Castlevania stand out is how influenced it was by horror movies made in the first half of the 20th century. Things like Dracula, Frankenstein's Monster, The Mummy, all taken from old movies. Development for Castlevania started as an NES title, not an arcade port like many other games were at the time. Hitoshi Akamatsu headed the development of the original NES trilogy. Akamatsu really loved film. When it came to his own creations, he had a film director's eye, not unlike Hideo Kojima, who directed Konami's other famous series, Metal Gear. He talked about that film feeling a lot. He'd say stuff like, respect the visual frame, and so forth. When I told Akamatsu how great I thought the music for Castlevania was, his reply was, that's because both the visuals and the music were made by people who consciously wanted to do something cinematic. And for his part, he tried to add interesting gameplay. It's often been remarked that many of Konami's games from the 80s featured H.R. Geiger motifs. Actually, this was because Akamatsu had seen Alien and was raving about it to everyone, spreading its popularity throughout the company. The fact that he never used those designs in his own games, however, shows something of his trickster personality, I think. It's amazing how connected films and video games are. The story of Castlevania goes as follows. It is the year 1691. Transylvania has enjoyed a century of peace thanks to the efforts of Christopher Belmont. More on him when we get to Castlevania The Adventure 1 and 2. The people were happy, living their lives, but every 100 years, good weakens. Evil men gathered in a monastery to resurrect Count Dracula, who had been defeated 100 years prior. With Dracula reformed, Castlevania appears as well, and so too do Dracula's minions, and they begin laying waste to the people of Transylvania. But fortunately, there is a man of the Belmont clan ready to stand up to Dracula's evil. That man is Simon Belmont. Simon's role is to fulfill his ancestors' duty, and he often wondered how he would compare himself to his legendary predecessors. On this day, it is Simon Belmont's duty and obligation to destroy Count Dracula. Of all the Belmonts, Simon is the most famous and most popular, being the first will do that. Most recently, he has appeared as a guest fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I already covered. You are Simon Belmont, and it's time now for your journey to begin. Well, to start off, Simon's control is alright. He has this very stimulating walk which people call the Belmont strut. Just look at that walk and tell me you don't think of that as a manly walk. Simon's main form of attack is the whip. You can only whip left or right. Fortunately, it's pretty easy to upgrade the whip since the game encourages you to whip those candles. In addition to the whip, Simon gets access to various sub-weapons. There's the axe, which arches, the cross, which serves as a boomerang, the dagger, which allows for fast attacks, the stopwatch, which slows down time, allowing you ample time to get past obstacles, the holy water, which acts like a flame, and you can get upgrades to your sub-weapons, allowing you to use 2 or 3 at a time. You have a life bar, and it's pretty generous. The enemies in this game are pretty much what you'd expect for a horror game. I love this game. Sure, the graphics are dated, and the controls a little stiff nowadays, but it's 8-bit. There's a charm to it. I love the music. It's so awesome. Nothing about this can get me down. Well, never said it would be easy. Okay. So this game, a classic example of difficulty spiked all the way up. Simon can't control his jumps in midair, so if you get hit while jumping over a bottomless pit, you are as good as dead. And the enemies start hitting you much harder than before, so the game has an escalating scale of difficulty. The biggest problem is that every time you get hit, you get knocked back. Classic video game knockback death. In this game, hearts are unique. Most games, like Zelda, hearts are health. But in this game, they're ammunition. You need them to be able to do your sub-weapons. The only way to restore health is by eating a wall chicken. Now, would you really want to eat a wall chicken? Would that even taste good? But then again, I guess when you're up against the forces of darkness, you take what you can get. What really annoys me is the placement of the enemies. There's Medusa heads that arc, and it's so hard to avoid. Or just these hunchbacks that don't know how to die. Fortunately, you can get lucky, and the cross will come down, or whatever they call it, and it will nuke the whole screen. Nintendo wasn't too big on having religious references back then. I could go into a long and detailed process as to how Nintendo censorship works back then, but not really my forte. Let's just say I'm glad the ESRB became a thing after Mortal Kombat. The first level of the game is pretty easy, all things considered. The boss is just a bat that can easily be taken away with the axe. The only time I ever find that the axe comes in handy, really. The second boss of the game is the Medusa head, taking some things from Greek mythology. Of course, I managed to beat her with the stopwatch. She didn't even land a blow. But then you get to the mummies, and it's very, very easy to get caught in between them. The best thing to do is to kneel down and whip like crazy, and hope, just hope that you block their projectiles. Phew. Then you go all the way down to the bottom. That should have broken his legs, but we'll ignore that because it is a video game. Which begs the question, why can't he survive whenever he falls into the water? But then you get the Frankenstein's monster and Igor, who will test your patience because the stopwatch does not work on them. Believe me, I've tried. However, I managed to get a pretty clutch save. Yeah! But now you reach the level of the Grim Reaper. Yes, you have to fight Death himself, and he is hard. I have no idea how anyone can beat him legitimately because Simon's movement is so stiff against him. The only thing you can do is at the beginning of the stage, try not to get hit. There are 2 wall chickens you can get. Make sure you get them both. At the very beginning of the stage, there is a holy water. Make sure you pick that up. Now keep going until you get to the room with the 2 knights. Keep pushing one to the right and he'll clip through the wall and disappear. Then go to the top of the lower stairs and throw a holy water and make the other one walk into it. The candle at the top of the stairs, it drops an axe. You do not want to pick that up, because if you do, your holy water gets replaced. Once you pick up a new sub-weapon, your old one is gone. Now go up the stairs and make sure you whip the first candle. This will drop a second item power-up. Get that! Now keep going through the level, and make sure you break the wall up top these stairs here and get the 3rd shot. Now keep going, making sure to get hit as little as possible. Take care of the bone guards at the bottom of the stairs so you don't get hit by projectiles. Then get the wall chicken to heal up. Now comes the hallway leading up to death. This hallway will kick your ass. Your reflexes have got to be perfect. Carefully jumping over the Medusa heads and attacking the knights is the only way to get through. But when you get through with a 3rd shot holy water, Death won't even be able to attack you, and he'll die in 3 seconds. Yeah, Simon Belmont just owned the Grim Reaper. Now all that's left is the final level where Dracula waits at the end. You must avoid all these bats that can knock you into bottomless pits, so your best bet is to keep moving and jumping whenever possible. You can use the stopwatch if you so feel like it, so that you can use it to avoid the bats. Then make sure you move as quickly as possible because you are vulnerable when you are on the stairs. Only then once you get past that will you reach where Dracula is. You head up the stairs and there's a foreboding feeling to it. Fortunately, what I will say about Castlevania is that it's pretty generous with checkpoints and continues. You have an unlimited supply of them, and if you die here at the final battle, you start at the staircase, kind of like how Zelda 2 starts you at the Great Palace once you reach there. Make sure you grind for hearts. Go back down the stairs, go back up, and get more hearts. Then finally you can face Dracula. He's really not too difficult when you get down to it. The key is to jump when he opens his cape so you can avoid his fireballs and make sure you hit his head. It's unfair that he does 4 points of damage to you, but you only do 1 bit of damage to him. The most annoying thing is whenever he tries to teleport right on top of you, and you have to keep moving to avoid him. But then you knock off his head and he transforms to his final form, and with the holy water, just freeze him in place and attack his head multiple times, and with that, you'll have beaten Castlevania. So that's Castlevania. Has it aged? A little. Is it a classic? Oh, undeniably. But did I enjoy the game? Hell yeah! The game is about the journey, and the destination was well worth it. But the history of the Belmont clan versus Dracula was only just getting started. because there was a little hint that all was not well. You see, at the end of the battle, Dracula managed to wound Simon, which leads us into our next adventure, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Let's just say this, Castlevania is a damn fine beginning to one of gaming's greatest franchises ever.